Rolling your free transfer in Game Week 2 is the best strategy that you can do. However, being a Gabriel owner, I don't know if I have that luxury. And in this video, I'm going to discuss exactly what my Game Week 2 transfer plans are and why, even if you don't own Gabriel, you might want to use your transfer this week. So make sure you do stick around for this video. Make sure you do drop a like and smash that subscribe button. We're aiming for 8K before that Game Week 2 deadline. I know you legends can do that. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Right then, first up, you guys are probably wondering, Nacho, how did you get on in Game Week 1? Well, I can tell you that it was a decent game week. I ended up with 76 points and a game week rank of 1,415,186, which of course is my overall rank being Game Week 1. And to be honest, I am happy with that rank. A few decisions that I made late on going into that Game Week 1 deadline probably were for the worse for my team, but all in all, I am happy. So a quick 30-second rundown on how the team got on. You can see the scores and the players that I selected in Game Week 1. Pickford with the 2-pointer. Now, just before the deadline, I decided to downgrade Onana to Pickford, give myself some money in the bank for flexibility in the coming game weeks. On reflection, yes, it probably wasn't the right move for Game Week 1 in isolation, but later down the line, I'm hoping that that money in the bank will pay dividends, and hopefully the Pickford Turner rotation that I've gone for will actually deliver FPL points. But of course, with the defenders, this is where the absolute carnage happened in FPL. I did not see the news until 1 minute before the deadline that Gabriel was going to be out of the starting 11. I tried to make the move to Saliba and it didn't go through, so I was stuck with Gabriel's 1 points. But I do think that he will be maybe okay in the coming game weeks. We will touch on that. But of course, Stupinan and Ben Chilwell just looking irresistible FPL options. Now, the midfield, I went for Mbeumo. I was happy with that 7 points. Good what we saw, and importantly, on penalties, showing what a valuable trait it is to have in FPL. Saka, Martinelli delivering the goods. Just kind of justifying why we went for Saka in our teams. He is the best Arsenal asset. But what was frustrating was that Man United performance. In particular, those that had the Bruno Fernandes Rashford double up. One of those was myself. Now, we're going to come on to that hot topic in this video, whether you should sell them. I am literally on the fence right now, but I think this video will help you decide what to do going into Game Week 2. And the Watkins-Haaland double up, I am happy with that. Yes, I could have gone for João Pedro, but Watkins I am trusting in the long term. And I think even though Aston Villa lost 5-1, I was impressed with both Diaby and Watkins in that game. So all in all, happy with the 76 points. Few things that need to be discussed in this, and we're going to come on to those now. So first up for my team, we need to talk about the Gabriel situation. Now, if you want to deep dive into all of the hot topics for Game Week 2, make sure to check out my most recent video where I have gone into detail. I'll put the card up here so you can click onto it after this one. So here are my thoughts on Gabriel first and foremost. If you don't know, he was dropped for tactical reasons, which isn't a good thing from an FPL perspective. I would rather him have been dropped because of injury. We know the clarity then. We can simply sell him, and then when he returns back to the team, consider him. Tactical then becomes an issue for us. Now, the big news that we need to remember is that Timber went off with an injury, and it looks like he's going to be out for quite a while. Does that benefit Gabriel? I think it does. I think that Arteta is going to be put in a position where he's going to have to integrate Gabriel back into the team. And it's worth noting as well, we don't actually know what kind of tactical reasons it was for Gabriel coming out of the team. It may have just been because they were at home against one of the lowest possession teams in the league in Nottingham Forest. He just wants to put as many possession-based players on the pitch, and that is why Partey played as right back. That could be one reasoning. And I do expect, and I've put the question there, should we sell him in Game Week 2? I think we hold on to him. Yes, if we get some information during the week that he is out of favour with Arteta, then we pull the trigger and we look at alternatives. But for me, wait until after Game Week 2. I expect him to start away against Crystal Palace, which would be a tough fixture. And I think he will fall back on Gabriel's experience in this Arsenal team. And I think he will come good. But again, if you are trigger happy and you want to pull the trigger, then there are great options available like Ben Chilwell. But for me, it is going to be a hold for Gabriel. Now, the other big disappointment from Game Week 1 was those Man United midfielders, Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. Quite a popular double-up for a lot of FPL managers going into Game Week 1. Now, these heat maps and stats are courtesy of Fantasy Football Fix. Make sure you do check them out. Link is in the bio. We can see Marcus Rashford's heat map here, and the far one being Bruno Fernandes's. So first up, I just want to quickly touch on Marcus Rashford. The big thing for me is that he was getting penalty box touches, which is really important with him playing as the number 9. We're not going to see him operate off the left until their new signing, Højlund, is going to actually be integrated into the team. But for now, we need to expect Rashford playing as the number 9 in this system. And although it wasn't the best performance, 0.38 XG, 4 shots, and 4 of those being in the box, I don't read that as bad viewing, even though I would expect more from him. I think it was just generally such a lackluster performance from Man United. However, the big issue here is Bruno Fernandes based on game week 1. We see on the heat map, it's kind of what we would expect from him. He's all action. He's going to be playing that number 8 role, picking up the ball in the middle third. Kind of a few touches in the penalty box, but very, very few. And on corners from the right flank, whipping them outwards. 0.02 XG, just not good viewing at all. Only 1 shot, but an expected assist of 0.36. And again, we saw this last season. He became much more of a chief creator in this Man United team. We thought maybe the introduction of Mason Mount would give him more license to attack the box. Clearly not the case in this one fixture. But again, we cannot come to conclusions based on just one game week of information. Now, looking at the fixtures, I'll put them up on the screen here. The next 2 I don't think are terrible at all. Away against Spurs and at home against Nottingham Forest. Now on paper, the Spurs fixture does not look good for Man United options, but I actually think this is more of a favourable fixture than that of the Wolves game at home. Now Spurs conceded a 1.84 expected goals conceded against Brentford, but it is worth noting 0.75 of that was the penalty from Mbeumo, but still, that reads to me that the Spurs defence is there to get at. And in particular, we saw Mbeumo and Vissa really stretch the Spurs defence and cause them plenty of problems. And when I look at this Man United team, full of pace from both Rashford, Garnacho, and importantly, those transition players like Fernandes and Mason Mount, I do think that there is going to be goals in this fixture. And if you're in a position right now where you're looking at game week 2 and thinking, that's not a good fixture for Bruno Fernandes or Rashford, I would actually argue the opposite. I think this is more of a fixture for them rather than against them. And then, of course, going into game week 3, they have the great home fixture as Nottingham Forest. Now, I said that about the Wolves game, and lo and behold, they didn't look good. But for me, I think the best option for the Man United options right now is to see them in game week 2 against a team like Spurs, which I think they are going to be better at. And then we can make assumptions after that period whether we decide to move one of those down to a Maddison or a Richarlison, potentially. It's worth noting, with Spurs playing Man United, I think it's such a sideways move. If you were feeling trigger happy to bring in someone like a Maddison, I think this is the perfect opportunity to get an idea on how both teams are actually looking this year against one another. Then we can decide which midfielders are actually the talisman for their team. So although it's disappointing, I think holding the Man United midfielders for one more game week is the right strategy. Now, with that said, here is how my game week team is looking. It's worth noting I have 0.5 million in the bank and, of course, 1 free transfer. Now, as I discussed, I went for the Pickford-Turner combination, and I'm going for Matt Turner. This was always the plan when I was going for this at home against Sheffield United. And what we saw from Sheffield United was a very, very blunt attack, with them setting the likes of Ndiaye, their best player. I am actually quite confident of this selection for Turner. And for those that are sat there with the decision of Turner or Onana, I still think it is absolutely fine to go for Turner in your teams, even though Onana is more of an expensive goalkeeper. Now, moving into defenders, Estupiñán was unbelievable in game week 1. There's no way we're not playing them against Wolves, even though they did look impressive. Gabriel, with the fingers crossed that he does start against Crystal Palace, which I am expecting myself. And Ben Chilwell, one of the standout performers again in game week 1. Everybody's moving to him. It feels great to actually have him in my team already. Away against West Ham, which I'm not expecting lots from Chelsea, but I do think they did look good defensively, in particular in the last hour. So this is positive for his ownership. Now, moving into midfield, Mbeumo away against Fulham. I'm absolutely delighted with that 6.5 million pick. And we've touched on the Man United midfielders. I'm happy to own them for that away game against Spurs. I do think there is going to be goals in that fixture. And of course, Saka and Martinelli away against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace defensively are a tough cookie, but I've owned these 2 midfielders for the long term. Saka honestly could be one of those players that I have between now and game week 38. while Martinelli is one of those, is why I've got a little bit of cash in the bank. If I want to go up to someone like an Odegaard, if he does emerge as the best option, I can do. And importantly, I do look at both Martinelli and Bruno Fernandes as potential cash cows later down the line to downgrade if a Man City or a Spurs midfielder looks absolutely essential. And of course, the front two, Haaland and Watkins. If you are looking at Alexander Isak and Nicholas Jackson, I don't think it is the right game week to sell Watkins at home against Everton. I know it's Sean Dyche and I know he will cause problems for Aston Villa in terms of goal scoring opportunities, but this is the game for Watkins and Aston Villa to bounce back. And I thought Watkins was actually quite good in game week 1, even though they did lose 5-1. And I'm more than happy to own him in this week. And the more that I sell him, the merrier, because I just do not view him as a must sell this week. Other players have, I would argue, trickier games that managers are buying them in for. And in terms of the captaincy, it's on Haaland right now. If I did have a Liverpool player, I think I would put the captaincy on Mo Salah, but I just think at home, Man City are different beasts. And I know they're playing midweek, so we do need to monitor that situation, whether they look leggy or potential injuries do arise. But right now, I just can't look past Erling Haaland while I don't have a Liverpool player in my team. Now, of course, on the bench, we have Pickford, Udogie, which I'm really happy to have in my team. He could be a sneaky pick come game week 4 when he needs to integrate into this team. Kabore with the blank and Mabama at home against Chelsea. But right now, I am planning on rolling my free transfer. But it's worth noting, looking at game week 3's team, it looks like I don't need to use a transfer then either. Now, just to give you an idea on what I mean about potentially not using a transfer in game week 2 and then not needing the transfer in game week 3, here is how my team would look in game week 3 if no injuries were to arise. Pickford at home against Wolves, a fantastic fixture. Chilwell, Estupiñán and Gabriel, all with brilliant home games. And that midfield is a joke. Fernandes and Rashford at home against Nottingham Forest. Saka and Martinelli at home against Fulham. And Mbeumo at home against Crystal Palace. It just gets better. And in that front two, Watkins away against Burnley and Haaland away against Sheffield United. And that's not to mention I've got someone like Udogie on the bench away against Bournemouth. So I'd look at this team in game week 3 with 2 free transfers available and ask myself, which one of those starting 11 would I actually sell? Now, of course, having 2 free transfers for game week 3 is just a nice security blanket because if any injuries do arise, any question marks about Gabriel, I have that security of 2 free transfers. I can move money about and really try to make my team longer term better. But if those things don't happen, we might get to a situation, we might look at the team and say to ourselves, I'm just going to change my 4.5 million forward for another 4.5 million forward. So while I think rolling the transfer is right for my team, I do want to say to you guys that are watching this video right now, you can be aggressive if you want to in game week 2. I think game week 3 looks so good for so many top teams that you're going to come into it thinking, I don't need that transfer. So if you're sat there with a Stones, you're sat there with a Gabriel and you're really worried about them, I actually don't think you need to worry about using your transfer in game week 2. As game week 3 looks like you only really need 1 transfer at best. And that's just a little message there in case you're in a situation where you're wanting to roll it, but feel like you need to use your transfer. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's Game Week 2 Transfer Plans video. I really hope that it's provided some value and giving you a little bit of an idea on what you want to do with your teams coming up. And that just leaves me to say thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 8K before that Friday deadline. You guys are legends so far. And of course, check out my most recent video where I talk about the Game Week 2 hot topics in detail. Go check it out and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.